Be open to change but stay firm on values. Chapter 9. Valuations change, values don't. Majority opinion does not make the right wrong or the wrong right. A young accountant was once offered a large sum of easy money for a job that made him somewhat uneasy. It wasn't quite illegal, but the contract struck him as questionable. So he requested the client to give him a day to decide. That night he went home and told his mother about the terms and conditions of the contract and the big money that was involved. His mother was totally illiterate. After listening to him for 2 hours, she said, "Son, I don't understand anything of what you just said. The final decision is yours. All I can say is one thing, that every morning when I come into your room, I find you fast asleep. I have a very hard time waking you up. I would hate to come into your room one day and see you awake. You decide." With these words, the mother left the room. After the mother left, the accountant kept thinking about what his mother had said. A few minutes later, he walked up to his mother and said, "Mom, I got my answer." Values are intrinsic to our lives. They add strength to our character. Values are principles that guide our actions. Positive values result in positive behavior leading to positive consequences. They build a positive society. Negative traits such as cheating, dishonesty, and selfishness result in negative behavior leading to negative consequences. They build a negative society. Valuables come and go. Values don't. Valuations of all material properties such as stocks, bonds, real estate, commodities, etc. keep changing. Some of them even change by the hour. Through generations, some values have been crystallized, which pave the way to clearly show us our do's and don'ts. Whenever we talk of values, we refer to universal and eternal values, which don't change with time or calendar. Universal means that they cut across country, culture, and religion. Eternal means that they were here before we came and they will be here after we are gone. There are no new truths. Sometimes we need to be reminded of the old ones. Once I was being interviewed and the interviewer asked, "Are you saying there are some rights and wrongs?" I said, "Yes, there are some grey areas. Yet there are some very clear areas. There are rights and wrongs." He said, "Haven't you heard that statement by Shakespeare where he says, 'There is nothing wrong or right. Your thinking makes it so.' You're contradicting Shakespeare. How do you explain yourself?" I said, "I just disagree with Shakespeare. If there are no rights and wrongs, then every criminal in this world ought to be released. Who said they are wrong? You say they are wrong. They didn't think so. So keep arguing for the rest of your life. If there were no rights or wrongs, then Hitler was totally right. Who says he was wrong? You think he was wrong. He didn't think so. Go keep arguing for the rest of your life. Let me share with you an example closer to home. Supposing you leave the studio and somebody on the street sticks a knife into your body and twists it 3 times with blood oozing out of your body. You tell him, "My friend, you are doing wrong." And he says, "Haven't you read Shakespeare? Nothing is right or wrong. Your thinking makes it so." Try explaining it to him now. Someone creates a few widows and a few orphans. You tell him, "My friend, you are doing wrong." And he says, "Nothing is right or wrong. Your thinking makes it so. Go tell it to this person. Benchmarks. In science, we look for theories and laws. In the commercial world, we look for quality, standards, and benchmarks. Why then should we not look for universal benchmarks for values? Whatever business or profession we may be in, unless we have clear quality standards and benchmarks, how can we ever achieve them? Similarly, unless we have universal benchmarks for values and ethics, how can we ever meet them? The question is, how do we set those universal benchmarks? I heard the following story which clarifies the point. There was a frail, elderly lady with 2 bags of groceries in her hand, waiting for a bus. Right behind her was a big boy also waiting for the bus. The bus came and they both got in. It was totally packed, but there was one seat available at the far end. So the elderly lady started moving to get that seat. The big boy came from behind, threw his big arm around the lady, took one big step and then another and took that seat. The elderly lady fell on the ground, her bag of groceries got scattered, and she was lying on the floor, totally helpless. There were many passengers in the bus. One of them was a sophisticated lady who started thinking, "How clumsy of this boy!" She was looking at the etiquette and the manners of the boy. There was a lawyer in the bus who started thinking, there must be a law against this kind of behavior. He was thinking from a legal perspective. There was a surgeon in the bus who started thinking, this lady must have broken 3 ribs. He was looking from a surgical perspective. The 4th person in the bus was a psychiatrist who started thinking, this boy is psychotic and he needs mental help. He was looking from a mental perspective. 4 people thinking in 4 different ways: etiquette, legal, surgical, and mental. Not one of them asked this question. Was this behavior right or wrong? Why don't we ask this question? The moment we do, we become judgmental. If our value system is clear, what is wrong in being judgmental? 2 questions arise from the story above. 1. Should this boy have behaved like this with the lady? The answer is a no. 2. Should anyone behave like this with anybody at all? The answer is a no. If the answer to both questions is a definite no, we have found our universal benchmarks. The same principle applies to all areas of our life. Where is the confusion? Clarifying values is not tough. What is tough is to face up to them, and that's why we choose not to clarify. Are you aware that every doctor who graduates anywhere in the world has to take the Hippocratic Oath, or the Oath of Hippocrates, which was given almost 2000 years ago? How long is that oath? Just about a page. If we read that oath, do we need any more values than that? Every lawyer takes the oath of Code of Conduct all over the world. How long is that oath? Just about a page. If we read that oath, do we need any more values than that? Subjective values. People who have subjective values claim that it is wrong to be judgmental. They say, who am I to decide? Aren't there always 2 sides to everything? What's right for one may not be right for another. All the above excuses smell of indifference, not neutrality. Neutrality to me does not seem the way of integrity. When somebody asks us a question, what is the downside of lying, stealing, and cheating? What do we say to that? Let's do a cost-benefit analysis. Do we say whatever works for us the best, or whatever makes us feel good? Absolutely not. But if we do, and if these are the values that we live by, how do we expect the coming generations to learn any better? That means one has to come out of the shell of indifference and not just say or do what one feels good about. If you are neutral in situations of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor. If an elephant has its foot on the tail of a mouse and you say that you are neutral, the mouse will not appreciate your neutrality. Desmond Tutu. On issues of values, if a person stays neutral, is it cowardice? Even though there are some grey areas, yet there are some very clear areas too. To identify the clear areas, we must establish some benchmarks. Just as truth does not change with the seasons, facts do not disappear just because they are ignored. The same holds true for good values. Unlike success, which is fleeting, values endure. Today's concept of relative values says everything is okay. What's right for me may not be right for you. If values are subjective and they keep changing from person to person and situation to situation, then it means we have no values at all. Universal and eternal values are not subjective. Peter Kraft, a professor at Boston College, in his book Making Choices, writes that contrary to popular belief, there are some clear values. Once, just to prove his point, he made a statement in his class, "All women in my class flunk." Immediately, everyone protested. Not fair. So he asked them, "Who defines fairness?" The class was left confused. If fairness is subjective, then there can be no universal values, and what is fair to one shall remain true. The students in this case would have no right to impose their opinion on their teacher, and neither would the teacher have the right to impose it on the students. But if universal objective values called justice and fairness exist, then the teacher would certainly be held wrong. In the absence of universal objective values, all that the students could do was protest against the teacher's rule because their subjective standards were different from his. In this example, the question was not of liking or not liking the rule, but of fairness. The objective values remain steady eternally irrespective of personal intent. They hold true for everyone alike. What makes acts like murder, rape, torture, and oppression crimes? The fact that they fail the universal benchmark of universal objective values, fairness and justice. Downgraded values cannot be remedied by money. In today's time, people are willing to bypass values in the interest of expedience and short-term gains. Hence, they are willing to act against their values. It seems that many CEOs, for example, are under such intense pressure to deliver short-term gains that they are easily willing to compromise on values. Ray Kroc, the founder of McDonald's, set a great example of values. It is said that once Ray Kroc visited one of his franchisees and found a dead fly on the floor. Soon after this, he cancelled the franchise. The way I see this is that Kroc said in unsaid words, "All over the world, people walk into McDonald's because they trust its good quality and hygienic food. If the owner of this franchise does not believe in these values, he does not deserve to carry a McDonald's name." In other words, what he was saying, let me take my name off and see how many people go into this restaurant then. If you ever want to lend anything to anyone in life, lend your money but never your name. Why? Because money is easy to recover, but name is very hard to recover. The message drawn from the above example is clear that there is no compromise on quality and values. You talk of flexibility, there is none. They earned credibility and was trusted because he stood firm on values. Unfortunately, today, too many people lack what Ray Kroc had: values. Values are more important than valuables.